Hello, everybody, and welcome to the show that shall not be named, where I do a drawing and describe my thought process so that you may know my thoughts. Today I am drawing a ramshackle. For the uninitiated, a ramshackle is a building or structure that is on the verge of collapse. It's also my nickname in certain circles because apparently I'm on the verge of collapse. But yeah, I'm just starting with a pencil sketch here. And I am drawing cubes, I suppose, with little roof shapes on them. I'm trying to arrange them all kind of in a random pattern, and then I'm drawing little entryways and windows and stuff on the fronts. Yeah, and adding a little doghouse in the front just to give it some character. And some rocks. And then I'm adding some more building structures and little chimneys and windows and all sorts of stuff on here. There's a little chimney and an air vent. Here's the uppermost structure with a patio sticking off of it. And some old school television antennas. I don't really see them around too much anymore unless you're driving through some place with abandoned buildings. And some wires and stuff like that. It's each element of the drawing is fairly simple. It's just doing a lot of simple things kind of all piled together makes one big complicated thing. That's kind of how I approach this kind of stuff and do all those like complicated details. It's just a bunch of little small drawings all piled together. And here I'm giving it a light erase so I don't have to erase as much later after the pen. And now I'm starting with the fine nib fountain pen. This has platinum carbon ink in it, as is customary. I'm just going through and picking out the edges. Some of the pencil drawing got a little chaotic, and I wasn't quite sure what was what, so I might not follow it exactly here, but it all ends up making sense in the end, so all's well that ends well, I suppose. Here I'm drawing some curved lines for the ground that it's sitting on. And just adding in like little angles and stuff to the edges to make them not perfect boxes. We want it to be, very ramshackle, so we're going to make it all janky, looking like it's ready to fall apart. And I like to do all these houses on stilts and stuff, little pedestals and stilts, so that it's not sitting directly on the ground. You can kind of see underneath it. I'll just add all sorts of random little cross members going every which way. And then, I'm coming through with some contour lines for the hillside, lining in the little dog house. Should have drawn a little dog on the horizon there or something. I didn't think of it for some reason till just now. Maybe next time. And then, yeah, I'm not following the pencil. I'm using the pencil as more of a guideline on this one. I'm not following it very, like, accurately. Just kind of fine-tuning stuff as I come through. If I get to a part and I don't like the angle of the line or something, or if I notice, like, the lines line up with something else, I'll just tweak it a little bit as I'm going. That's the beauty of doing a sketch first, is that you're not committed to anything, 100%, till you trace over it with the pen. And then, yeah, drawing the railing on the porch there. And, yeah, just picking out all the little edges, making the roof look kind of wonky. More of those old school TV antennas. I don't think those even work anymore, at least not where I live. They do the TV stuff all digitally now. I wonder if there's places where you can still pick up TV with the antenna. And yeah, here I'm doing another light erase just to kind of clean up some of the pencil lines, and I'm coming through with cross-hatching, following the sort of direction of the perspective, I guess, if that makes sense. I mentioned it before in my last video. I kind of imagine everything to have a bit of a wireframe on it, and I'll have the hatching follow those contours. So even though these are boxes and they have straight lines, they're still in line with the contour of the shape, if that makes sense. Like on the front surface of a box, the lines will be perfectly horizontal, but then on the side they'll be like angled with the top and bottom edges, if that makes sense. And I'm not sticking to anything too strictly on this because it is supposed to be very like janky and, falling apart. So we don't want it to look too neat. We want it to be kind of a mess. This has the Noodler's black in it. One of my favorite black inks, aside from the platinum carbon. I want to buy some more inks and start experimenting with some different stuff. It's hard for me anyways, once I find something I like, it's hard for me to branch out sometimes to, try some new inks and pens and stuff like that. So you kind of get used to whatever it is that you're using, and almost, if you try a new pen or something, it almost feels like, even if it's a really nice pen, it doesn't feel very good in your hand because you're not used to it. If that makes sense? And yeah, just lots of cross-hatching on this one. I didn't add a ton of the greeblies and gibbets and whoosy-whatsits. Just didn't want it to be too biological looking or I don't want it to look, I want it to look like a house, not like some sort of crazy science fiction thing. So I was just kind of playing it straight with the hatching. There's a time and a place for everything, right? Doing some little tiny brick details in that chimney there. doghouse is all shaded in, and I'm adding some little fine line little cross members through the background and shading in some of the other cross members underneath here. I'm going to start on the grass, just hatching sort of in the direction of the shape that I imagine and leaving a highlight. This drawing ends up being all single pass hatching. There's no cross hatching in it, so... Oh, gotta add that little antenna. Can't forget that little antenna up there. I can't decide if I like the single pass hatching better than stuff with cross hatching in it, or if I like to do stuff with cross hatching better. I guess I don't have a preference. I think it just, depending on the piece, like, you know, and how I'm feeling that day, I might just, you know, pick one or the other. And then, yeah, I'm adding in little cross members, more wires, and little antennas and stuff sticking up. Making sure this house is wired into the grid. And yeah, here I'm drawing some horizontal lines for clouds. I'm going to have them coming out of the border, and then just sketching in the poofy shapes on the top. These are my clouds I like to draw. I like to imagine they're just kind of like sitting on a shelf of air, I guess. And then, yeah, here I'm coming through drawing the border. I was debating on whether to do a sky texture on this one. I ended up deciding not to do it because I didn't want the contrast to, you know, I didn't want the whole thing to be kind of monotone. And of course, I get a little smudge there right at the end on that cloud. But yeah, so I wanted to preserve some of the contrast because I was only doing single pass hatching, and so yeah, no sky texture on this one. I just drew a box around it and then added the clouds in. But yeah, that's about going to wrap it up. Thanks for watching. Go ahead and like, comment, and subscribe if you feel so inclined. Thank you to my patrons on Patreon, and I will see you all in the next one.